Adam Ghetti, founder and CEO of Ionic Security, a world leader in cybersecurity, discussed the roles that the private and the public sector must play to ensure cybersecurity for all.
What I'm going to do my best to convince everybody here today is that actually what we need to be discussing across policy, across organizations, and amongst ourselves as individuals is the idea of trust. And that within that concept, in the world we live in today, things such as cybersecurity and privacy and the likes fall into that framework. The constructs and primitives by which modern society has evolved to get to where it is today, the two fundamental things that absolutely no longer exist, but are absolutely rigid variables in almost every calculus that is performed, from law to policy to how we interact amongst each other as individuals or organizations, just don't exist. We no longer live in the world that is loosely coupled, highly proximate, and very tactile. The world that almost all of human history is built around. Almost all of our social constructs depend on. We live in a world today that is so distributed, so interdependent, and almost every day more and more virtual. And really what those things mean is it used to be almost impossible, and actually it really did used to be impossible, for somebody sitting on the other side of the world to wake up that morning and affect the lives of other humans that weren't physically proximate to them that day. We don't live in that world anymore. I believe we are now at a point when it comes to law, when it comes to policy, when it comes to the responsibility of businesses, the responsibility of governments, and the responsibilities of us as individuals to take into account one really simple thing. We are so dependent on each other. We are so connected as part of that dependency. And we are so susceptible to a very small amount of effort having a very real bad impact on our lives every single day because of it. And we've never lived in a world before where somebody, once again, sitting on the other side of the world, can put a few keystrokes into some little box, and it could affect the lives of millions or tens of millions, or in some cases, hundreds of millions. And that trend is just not going anywhere. Law, how we think about it, policy, how we think about it, organizational constructs and how we think about them, all are going to have to evolve to the world where we are no longer proximate and we no longer rely day in and day out on very tactile assets or interactions. One thing that is not going to change in a progressive way until we reconcile that is the fact that all of this data that does have the opportunity to do good for us, but also at the same time has the opportunity to do some irreconcilable bad things, is still going to be collected and aggregated. It's still going to be centrally placed in multiple organizations' data sets. And that will not change until there is a demand that the incentive structures to do that changes. There will be no reason to. How many individuals in this room would be comfortable not knowing right now, instantaneously, where every penny you have is? Raise your hand if you would be comfortable. Nobody, right? So, quick question. The money you have, sans the money in your pocket and the money under your bank, under your bed at home, is just ones and zeros too. It's just data. Mm-hmm. We obviously have proven to the world at scale and across every jurisdiction we can tag and track and account for all the digital bits that make up the world's global economy. And we don't break a sweat. So we know it can be done. So that's the first part. This is not an insurmountable problem, technically. So it can be fixed, it can be done. Second, this was not even not even a difficult thing for you to contemplate. It's your money. You want to know where the heck it is and how it's being used. The most critical asset you have other than your people and your customers is the information that your people and your customers produce, the data. Mm-hmm. It is the asset. It is the commodity. It is also the most free-flowing commodity, but it is also the first commodity that we have in all of history of commodities that is easily copied and easily made portable. It is this thing that is no longer required to be proximate to have impact and value, and this thing that is no longer required to be tangible, one thing in one place to have value. So we need to recognize that if we, as individuals, allow for everybody else to reap the rewards of our data, we're losing business value, we're losing monetary value, and we are going to give up our ability to ever get that value back because the commodity markets are really efficient at extracting value. And so if you would like to make change, start thinking about your data as an asset, and you most likely will start thinking about it slightly differently just outright. And then start demanding more of this from your providers of services. And that's ultimately how we're going to make change. There are really interesting ideas and a lot of wide-eyed and bushy-tailed millennials and non-millennials out there, and iGens and everybody else, that recognize this as an opportunity to change the power curve and invert the power pyramid on this one. And we may see some real change because of it.